You've got to get up pretty early in the morning to speak to America's hardworking farmers and food producers. We should know. FLM Harvest is a strategic, full-service creative consultancy proud to reach more farmers, farmer boards, and food and commodity associations than any agency in the country. And we understand omni-channel as well as we understand the journey from field to fork. Most importantly, we connect clients to the audiences that matter to them.
Joined today by Congressman Jim Hagedorn of Blue Earth, Minnesota for Minnesota's 1st District. First, Congressman, thanks for joining me today, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
It's great to be with you. I'm fortunate to represent the people of southern Minnesota in a district that's 21 counties, all the way from South Dakota to Wisconsin and Iowa, up about 80 miles. Very heavy in agriculture, pretty much every type of agriculture you can think of, and just excited to be on the committee. I was born in Blue Earth, Minnesota, where I live today. At about age 2, we moved nearby, about 30 miles to the city of Truman, and we bought a farm outside the city, and I grew up on a grain and livestock farm. Matter of fact, it's this farm just to my left. My father, grandfather, great-grandfather were all southern Minnesota farmers, so that was pretty exciting.
Tell me about growing up on the farm.
It was really neat, doing the chores, and I remember going and feeding the hogs when I was just a little kid, and my mom would say, "Don't fall in, because we'll never see you again." You know, those hogs could be pretty big. But seeing my dad work the machinery, and one of the things that always impressed me and my father and grandfather was they had to be their own mechanics. When the machinery broke down, whether it was a tractor or the combine or whatever, they had to get in there and fix it, because you only had so much time to get the crop out of the field or get the crop into the field. So that kind of always impressed me about how farmers, and still to this day, they're kind of their own mechanics.
And you've been here for about a year. Tell me what your initial thoughts of Congress have been. I know in your younger days, your father also served, and you were a legislative assistant. What's it like here now serving yourself?
Actually, this is his old office. My father,
wow.
44 years ago. Pretty neat, 325 Cannon. So we're excited about that. He was here for swearing in. And when my father was on the Agriculture Committee, and my old boss, Congressman Stanglin, who I worked for, who was a terrific guy, they taught me that the Ag Committee can be bipartisan, you can get things done, and you have to work for all parts of agriculture. I mean, we don't have cotton in southern Minnesota. They have it in Texas, and they don't have sugar beets, for instance, in Texas, but we like to help both sides make sure all of agriculture is successful moving forward. So that's really been something that I've kept with all these years.
You talk about all of agriculture and serving all of agriculture, but tell folks specifically about the makeup of your district and the agriculture there as well.
Well, we're heavy on livestock. We have every kind of livestock you can think of, but a lot of hogs. Probably the second largest congressional district in the whole country for hogs. And we have our corn farmers, soybean farmers, on it goes, and very diverse, but they're all in it together. You can see how they all connect. And one of the things that we're concerned about is this African swine fever. We have to keep it out of the United States. It won't just hurt our hog producers, it'll hurt everybody down the line.
And I know you've introduced a surveillance bill to kind of help improve protections against that. Can you tell me more about that bill?
Well, what our bill would do is essentially force the Agriculture Department and the Department of Homeland Security to work as closely together as possible to form a task force. And that way we can identify who's working on that task force, have them up for hearings, and then provide them with whatever they need. They're going to need legislation, they're going to need appropriations. And so we want them to work together to try to, as far as inspections are done, make sure that pork products don't come into the United States, that we have enough inspectors, that we get the Beagle patrols that we need. And people laugh at those Beagle patrols they see in airports and at the checkpoints, but they're very effective at figuring out whether or not there's pork products that shouldn't be coming into the country.
Yeah, I've actually got to go see that in action, and it is kind of amazing to see what those beagles can sniff out. And they caught a few folks that they had to take over when I was there a few months ago looking at it.
They have. It'll be devastating, unfortunately, for our farmers if the African swine fever enters the United States. And you see what it's done to China. They had to slaughter half their hogs. That hurt our producers in southern Minnesota because half our soybeans were going to China. And whatever you want to say about trade, we were going to lose some of that market share just because their hogs had been slaughtered in China.
Do you see ASF as an opportunity for America to supply hogs and products to China to kind of help with that?
There's no doubt that there's going to be demand around the world for our products. There already is in many instances. I mean, we have to put it in perspective, though. I think the whole U.S. hog supply could take care of China for about 17 days or something. It's not very much. They have quite a demand over there. But I think it can be helpful to our farmers, and that's why we need to protect them all the more.
As far as just going back to the House Ag Committee, you serve on there as well as the Small Business Committee. But tell me, was Ag something that you wanted to be on, being from a farm?
I promised the voters that if elected, I would do everything possible to get on the House Ag Committee, and I thought it was the best way that I could support and defend the interests of southern Minnesota. And we have three main sectors: agriculture, small business, manufacturing, and then the last is medical. We have over 40,000 direct jobs for medical with Mayo Clinic and others. But agriculture was key. And I asked the leaders in the Republican Party when I was elected, I said, can you please help me get on a committee? And we had lost the majority, so we lost a lot of seats, a lot of slots on the committee. And frankly, Frank Lucas, a good friend of mine, former chairman of the Ag Committee, he took a leave of absence from agriculture so I could serve. And I am very appreciative of that, and for all the Republican leaders for looking out for me.
As far as your priorities here in Congress, what are some of the agriculture priorities you have serving here?
Number one right now as we're looking at it is trade. We keep expanding trade, keep getting these deals through, to be a positive force for that like we were with USMCA. Second is to make sure that the programs that have been, the laws that are on the books, that they get implemented the way the Congress intended. That obviously is the new Farm Bill. We have to make sure that that's done. And then things like the renewable fuel standard with ethanol. Very concerned that they've had these waivers for small refineries that have been misused, and we don't even really know who some of these are. So I've been on bills with Colin Peterson, the Democrat chairman, and in bipartisan fashion, we want to make sure that process is transparent. And we also want to make sure that the EPA administers the program the way President Trump has promised in just the last few months, to blend at least 15 billion gallons and to make sure that we have that demand. I mean, all markets and producers, they did things based upon a law that Congress put out there. You can't pull the rug out from under them in the middle. Let's make sure that that renewable fuel standard is implemented the way Congress intended.
The GAO is set to do an investigation on these small refinery exemptions. Is that something you support?
I think the more that we put sunlight on that process, the better. And again, we just want to make sure that it's done by the book and that they administer it the way Congress wanted. Also, additionally, of course, we're trying to protect our food supply. We're trying to protect our farmers. We talked about African swine fever. There are other diseases, and so that's a big part of what agriculture is up to. So a lot on the plate, mostly implementation, mostly promoting good policies like trade, and we'll keep at it.
I know there's a lot of work that goes on here, that some days you get kind of busy, but what do you like to do in your spare time when you're not working here in Congress?
Just working with the staff, hanging out with them, talking about what bills we might be putting together, how they think things are working in the district. And we get back, of course, the best part is I go back to the district every break. I made 34 trips last year. And so it's 2 hours by air, then it's 2 hours to drive down in the district, and getting around shaking hands with folks, especially the farmers, has been, it's the best part of the job.
Congressman, thanks for your time today.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.